Hey guys, it's about 3:45 a.m. in the morning in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. August 6, 2020. This is Kyle, aka Vulcan Wolverine. My attackers hacked in and froze up my live stream, but this is the information I wanted to get to towards the end. This is from the Legal Coop. This is from a website that the lawyer, I can't remember his first name, but his last name is Schumann, Ray Schumann. Action support July 31st World Day against electronic torture, aka cyber torture, aka psycho porn, which I agree with. In practice, cyber technology already plays the role of an enabler in the perpetration of both physical and psychological forms of torture, most notably through the collection and transmission of surveillance information and instructions to interrogators, through the dissemination of audio or video recordings of torture or murder for the purposes of intimidation or even live streaming of child sexual abuse on demand of voyeuristic clients. And increasingly also through the remote control or manipulation of stun belts, medical implants, and conceivably nano or neurotechnological devices. Cyber technology can also be used to inflict or contribute to severe mental suffering while avoiding the conduit of the physical body, most notably through intimidation, harassment, surveillance, public shaming, and defamation, as well as appropriation, deletion, or manipulation of information. So he's writing all this for July 31st, World Against Electronic Torture, World Day Against Electronic Torture, and then he has, let me pull it up. It's simple. Just as there's an audience for Dexter and Punk'd, there is one for real abuse. Some sick people are in the throes of shock addiction and they will pay for it. I hope you join me in condemning the resulting psycho porn. If you want Mr. Melzer's full report on confirming this issue, it's here. Other copies can be had elsewhere at the UN.org website. So that's mainly what I wanted to show, is this Nils Melzer's report at the Human Rights Council, the 43rd Session Human Rights Council, and they had it from February 24th to the 20th of March 2020. So he speaks on cyber torture. It's a long report. I'll read a little bit in the front, but I really want to read just the section on cyber torture to show you guys. He's going to take what he's already written, right? He already knows about neurotechnology and the abuses and things like things that like Ewan Cameron, psychic driving, V2K, that Ewan Cameron was working on, and things like that. And he's going to take those things, and then we've sent in all of our testimonies. He's gotten he's heard testimonies from targeted individuals, and he's going to add that to the report that he's going to give in the general session in October. So he was already on just this report to the Human Rights Council, it was speaking about our issue and the trauma and the experimentation and the torture that we go through. So torture and other cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment of punishment. Report of the Special Rapporteur on Torture and other cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment of punishment. In the present report, the Special Rapporteur examines conceptual, definitional, and interpretive questions arising in relation to the notion of psychological torture under human rights laws. So he has a lot about psychological torture. The universal prohibition of torture is recognized to be of an absolute, non-derogable, and even preemptory character, and has been restated in numerous international instruments of human rights, humanitarian and criminal law, since its first proclamation in Article 5 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948. The international community has established an impressive normative and institutional framework for its implementation. At the same time, however, numerous states have invested significant resources towards developing methods of torture which can achieve purposes of coercion, intimidation, punishment, humiliation, or discrimination without causing readily identifying physical harm or traces. Now, with cyber torture, in the context of what's happening to us, it causes severe physical harm, but it does not leave traces that science can see readily at this point in time, right? Damage to the brain and the white matter tracts, and just, you know, damage to brain tissue, damage to the nervous system, immense trauma that's creating damage, psychological damage to the brain, and that's not readily seen, right? But some targeted individuals are actually burned by the external hits. That is a actual physical trace that can be seen. And like we saw in the last video in the live stream, when those big DEW weapons created those fires, many people in the area were getting rashes because that heat was causing rashes on their skin from the DEW weapons. So let's go down. I'm going to put this in the description, but I basically want to get to the important part of where they talk about neuroweapons and neurotechnologies, psychic driving, and things like that. Concept of psychological torture, working definition. Psychological torture is not a technical term of international law, but has been used in various disciplines, including legal. Oh, and guys, I'm not on camera right now because I put on all my headgear, so I just thought I'd run through this and put it in the description for you guys. I was going to do this in the live stream, but my attackers froze up StreamYard. They basically freeze up my computer where it's like it says that Microsoft has to shut down. So, I mean, on that live stream, there's an example of cyber torture, hacking into my computer, not letting me get information out, and that's a huge that's a huge form of, censoring me, and also psychologically hurting me. Even though, I mean, something like that is nothing compared to actually hacking my brain, rewiring my brain, remote neural manipulating my brain, external hits to the body, the groin, the head. That's why I kind of laugh at stuff like that, because in my mind, we have bigger fish to fry, than somebody hacking into my computer. And I'm kind of like, well, if they do hack into my live stream, well, that's fine. They're just showing everyone what's happening. They're just showing themselves, right? So, I mean, to me, it's kind of I guess it's kind of a good thing. Bad thing because I wanted to show information, but it's like, oh, here's an example of them hacking into my computer. The Special Rapporteur acknowledges that all of these understandings have their own legitimacy, validity, and purpose in their respective fields. In line with the mandate bestowed upon him, the present report examines the concept of psychological torture from the perspective of international human rights laws. Distinguishing methods from effects and rationales. Distinguishing psychological from physical, no marks and no touch torture. Likewise, physical no-touch torture avoids direct physical interaction, but still intentionally manipulates or instrumentalizes physiological needs, functions, and reactions to inflict physical pain or suffering. This typically includes pain inflicted through threat-imposed stress positions or powerful sensory or physiological irritation through extreme temperatures, loud noise, bright light, or bad smell, deprivation of sleep, food or drink, provocation of urination, prevention or provocation of urination. So he's talking about, that's talking about remote neural manipulation. No touch torture, which would be, actually it is touch, because it's electromagnetic fields and pulses to the brain, where it can keep you from using the bathroom, or it can make you have to use the bathroom, or it can give you sleep deprivation. So they're talking about it right there. They're talking about no touch torture, how it can cause physical reactions to the body through the brain, or exposure to pharmaceutical substances or drug withdrawal symptoms. Although these techniques deliberately use the conduit of the victim's body for the infliction of pain and suffering, they are sometimes discussed as psychological torture, mainly because of their psychological rationale and intended destabilizing effect on the human mind and emotions. and the limited physical contact between the torturer and the victim. As long as no-touch techniques inflict severe physical pain or suffering of any kind, however, they should be regarded as physical torture. Yes. If something is being done with directed energy, it's being shot at somebody, external hits, pulses to the brain, electromagnetic transcranial stimulation, electromagnetic pulses to the vestibular system, the eyes and the ears, and then other things that just go straight through to the brain, like photo. I can't even think of it right now. My attackers like wiped that. But basically, invisible light to the brain, to neural networks on the brain that nanotechnology creates. It's not no touch. It's actually physical torture, because all these physical weapons are used to create torture that maybe is creating a lot of damage psychologically and damage to the nervous system. I think this is going to be a pretty complicated thing, and they're going to have to talk through it, right? They're going to have to, like Nils Melzer, they're going to have to use our testimonies to figure out, like, what to even call it, right? They're calling it cyber torture, but they're saying, like, well, it's bypasses the body. In our case, it does not bypass the body. It's weapons used on the body from far away. So this whole new thing, right, which has been going on since after World War II, they're going to have to come up with a lot of new terminology. Applying the constitutive elements, severe pain and suffering, intentionality. Psychological torture requires the intentional infliction of mental pain or suffering, and thus does not include purely negligent conduct. Intentionality does not require that the infliction of severe mental pain or suffering be subjectively desired by the perpetrator, but only that it be reasonably foreseeable to result in the ordinary course of events from the purposeful conduct adopted by the perpetrator. And in targeted individuals' cases, this is completely intentional. They want to destroy our brain, destroy our body, cause harm, cause trauma, cause harassment. They want to cause isolation. They want to destroy our lives, and in some cases, they want the target individual to do violence. Like they were trying that with me many years ago, right? And now they're just trying to brain hobble me, really mess my mind up, keep my mind from being organized, rewire it with pretty sophisticated remote neural manipulation. At the same time, do V2K psychic driving and NLP and hypnosis, while they've got the external hits going on to just make me exhausted, right? I think a lot of you guys know what I'm talking about there. Purposefulness, powerlessness. In practice, powerlessness arises whenever someone has come under the direct physical or equivalent control of the perpetrator and has effectively lost the capacity to resist or escape the infliction of pain or suffering. That would be targeted individuals. We can't get away from this. Wherever we go, with the infrastructure and the weapons grid, they can hit us wherever we go to. If we go to a different country, if we go to a different place, a different state, they can keep the directed energy locked on our bodies. This is typically the case in situations of physical custody, such as arrest and detention, institutionalization, hospitalization or internment, or any other form of deprivation of liberty. In the absence of physical custody, powerlessness can also arise through the use of body-worn devices capable of delivering electric shocks through remote control, given that they cause the complete subjugation of the victim irrespective of physical distance. I mean, that would encompass implants, but then there's nanotechnology, and then you don't even need anything with some of this more advanced targeting, where it's just it's connecting with the unique brainwave signature of your brain or your DNA, and then you can be hit with directed energy. Streams from the neuroweapons can pulse and connect to your vestibular system straight to your brain. A situation of effective powerlessness can further be achieved through deprivation of legal capacity when a person's exercise of decision making is taken away and given to others. Through serious and immediate threats, or through coercive control in contexts such as domestic violence, through incapacitating medication, and depending on the circumstances in collective social contexts of mobbing, cyberbullying, and state-sponsored persecution. State-sponsored persecution, which would be gang stalking, and also state-sponsored, directed energy weapon torture, neuro weapons torture. We have no legal recourse. Like, lawyers won't take our case, and if they do, I think some targeted individuals have gotten settlements, but then, they're gagged. They can't say anything about it. And then I think it's been really hard to get together class action suits. Some targeted individuals do have their cases in the Supreme Court, and I'm not sure what's going on with those. But what I'll guarantee is after the UN resolutions are written, we might actually have a chance on that. We might actually have a chance. Lawyers might kind of flock to us if things can come together right. If things can come together right, and I'm seeing things coming together pretty good. I'm like, is it gonna totally get us there? I don't know, but I'm already seeing some like really, really good aspects of this. Like already, even before they've announced it in October, in our individual lives that we can use, like just telling people about this stuff. It's gonna make it more. I think there's gonna be a certain point where this is just out in the open, and then lawyers, just like asbestos cases, like in the past, lawyers will be like, okay, yeah, we'll definitely take your case because we can make a whole lot of money off of it. And state-sponsored persecution, depriving victims of any possibility to effectively resist or escape their abuse, and that is targeted individuals to a T, because it's just, the gang stalkings everywhere we go, the directed energy weapons nailing our body and hooked in, the fields around our head, and then the stream of energy straight to the brain everywhere we go. Lawful sanctions exception. Let's pass that up. Predominant methods of psychological torture. Given the virtually unlimited forms torture can take, the selected examples are of illustrative character only. Moreover, various methods of torture may have similar or overlapping effects or reinforce each other in various other ways. In practice, specific methods of torture are rarely applied in isolation, but almost always in combination with other methods, techniques, and circumstances, forming what has been aptly described as a torturing environment. Yes. Therefore, the following separate discussion of specific methods is primarily didactic and analytical purposes and should not be taken to suggest that any such rigid classification maps neatly onto the very practical manifestations of torture. Security, inducing fear, phobia, and anxiety. Self-determination, domination, subjugation, dignity and identity, humiliation, breach of privacy, and sexual integrity. Dignity and identity, it goes with this kind of targeting and remote neural manipulation, brain conditioning. It goes so way over of conditioning. Conditioning. You lose yourself is basically the bottom line. It's like so bad, and so many weird things are being done to your brain. It's like you're being washed away. Like waves in an ocean, just washed away with all the trauma and the pain, and you're just like, who am I? We stick ourselves back together using our faith and really getting close to God, but it's a battle. It's a battle to keep your identity. Sometimes you feel like a sack of meat, just being traumatized, tortured, kicked by people. When it, like, metaphorically kicked by gang stalkers, people looking at you like you've done something, and you're experiencing, a war every day against, directed energy being fired on your body, and then also your brain just being churned up by constantly them experimenting with, hey, let's just keep putting thoughts in his head, let's keep putting feelings in there, and it's like it messes you up. you know. But I am Kyle. I am still Kyle. Constant audio-visual surveillance through cameras, microphones, one-way glass, caging, and other relevant means, including during social, legal, and medical visits, and during sleep, personal hygiene, including urination and defecation. Sexual harassment through insinuation, jokes, insults, allegations, threats, exposing genitalia. It must be stressed that the humiliating and degrading character of abuse does not necessarily relegate it to the realm of other cruel, inhuman, or degrading treatment, which is sometimes incorrectly regarded as a lesser wrong than torture. Systematic and prolonged violations of privacy, dignity, and sexual integrity are known to instill severe mental suffering, including emotions of profound vulnerability, humiliation, shame, and guilt, often exacerbated by anxiety of social exclusion, self-hatred, and suicidal tendencies. Like with other methods, therefore, is the intentionality and purposefulness of degrading treatment and the powerlessness of the victim, which are decisive for its qualification as either torture or other ill treatment. Environmental orientation, sensory manipulation. I'd say that's a huge one. While short-term sensory deprivation can already trigger extreme mental torment, prolonged deprivation generally produces apathy, followed by progressively severe disorientation, confusion, and ultimately delusional, hallucinatory, and psychotic symptoms. According to the UN body of principles, explicitly prohibit holding a detainee in conditions which deprive him, temporarily or permanently, of the use of any of his natural senses, such as sight or hearing, or of his awareness of place and passing of time. In practice, such deprivation involves the partial or complete elimination of sensory stimulation through an accumulation of measures such as suppression of oral communication with the victim, constant monotonous light, visual sterile environment, soundproof insulation of the cell, hooding, blindfolding, gloves, facial masks, earmuffs. You know, there's a different kind of sensory deprivation that goes on with targeting. You know, with my remote neural manipulation, I mean, certain parts of my brain are cut off from me. Time, they can do stuff to my temporal lobe where time goes really slow or really fast. So it's like actually you know, using neuro weapons and neurotechnology to play with my senses, right? And you guys experience this too, making me smell smells that aren't there, hear sounds that aren't there, and things like that. Social and emotional wrapper, isolation, exclusion, and betrayal. Yeah, we all go through that, the isolation. Let me read this part about the neuro. I'll read the titles though. Communal trust, institutional arbitrariness, and persecution. And I think we have a big problem with that because we can't trust anyone. Like, nobody trusts psychiatrists, nobody trusts doctors, we don't trust the government, we don't trust, nobody has helped us. Everybody, like police and the FBI actually participate in the stalking and harassment. You know, the military-industrial complex is experimenting on us, and nobody wants to touch it. You know, doctors want to just call us crazy and everything like that. Let me read a little bit about this. So, communal trust, institutional arbitrariness, and persecution. Every human being has the inherent need for communal trust. Confronted with the overwhelming power of the state, individuals must be able to compensate their own powerlessness by relying on the community's ability and willingness to exercise self-restraint, most notably through adherence to the rule of law. That's a joke. The rule of law is like a joke. It's not happening now. And the principles of due process. No due process. They pick people at random to target who've done nothing, to experiment on them, to torture them, and to gang stalk them like pieces of meat. And there's no due process, and we are not treated as human beings. As long as administrative or judicial error, negligence, or arbitrariness is what targeting has. It's just picking people because you got some people around you that are connected to these programs. And they're like, yeah, let's throw them in it. but let's get some revenge, and then you're stuck in it. Arbitrariness can be effectively, though at times imperfectly, addressed and corrected through a regular system of institutional complaints and remedies. The resulting inconveniences, injustices, and frustrations may have to be tolerated as an inevitable side effect of the constitutional processes that govern democratic societies. A tyrannical society. We're not a democracy or a republic anymore. We're a technocratic anarcho-tyranny. Technocratic anarcho-tyranny. Yeah, I think that's what we are. Apart from incommunicado detention and solitary confinement discussed above, some of the most notable forms of arbitrary detention include enforced disappearance, coercive detention, cruel, inhuman, or degrading punishment. We get that as target individuals. Okay, let me get to the neuroweapons part, the part about cyber torture. Let me get to the cyber torture. Torturous environments, accumulation of stressors. Cyber torture, E. Sorry it took me so long, guys, to get there. I kind of just wanted to read some of it. Okay, it's kind of bad. Okay, cyber torture. A particular area of concern which does not appear to have received sufficient attention is the possible use of various forms of information and communication technology, cyber technology, for the purposes of torture. Although the promotion, protection, and enjoyment of human rights on the internet has been repeatedly addressed by the Human Rights Council, torture has been understood primarily as a tool used to obstruct the exercise of the right to freedom of expression on the internet, and not as a violation of human rights that could be committed through the use of cyber technology. This seems surprising given that some of the characteristics of cyberspace make it an environment highly conducive to abuse and exploitation. Most notably, a vast power asymmetry, virtually guaranteed anonymity, and almost complete impunity. Yeah, and I'd say that's a fact. The people that are the contractors that are doing it, it's like a vast power asymmetry where it's not even our attackers in the automated systems. It's not even supposed to be a fight. We're just supposed to be destroyed and experimented on. We're not, but I mean, we're making it a fight. Virtually guaranteed anonymity, right? And almost complete impunity. In fact, states, corporate actors, and organized criminals not only have the capacity to conduct cyber operations inflicting severe suffering on countless individuals, but may well decide to do so for any of the purposes of torture. It is therefore necessary to briefly explore, in a preliminary manner, the possibility and basic contours of what could be described as cyber torture. In practice, cyber technology already plays the role of an enabler in the perpetration of both physical and psychological forms of torture, most notably through the collection and transmission of surveillance information and instructions to interrogators, through the dissemination of audio or video recordings of torture or murder for the purposes of intimidation, or even live streaming of child sexual abuse on demand of voyeuristic clients, and increasingly also through the remote control or manipulation of stun belts, medical implants, and conceivably nano or neurotechnological devices. Cyber technology can also be used to inflict or contribute to severe mental suffering while avoiding the conduit of the physical body, most notably through intimidation, harassment, surveillance, public shaming, and defamation, as well as appropriation, deletion, or manipulation of information. The delivery of serious threats through anonymous phone calls has long been a widespread method of remotely inflicting fear. With the advent of the internet, particularly state security services have been reported to use cyber technology, both in their own territory and abroad, for the systematic surveillance of a wide range of individuals and for the direct interference with their unhindered access to cyber technology. Moreover, electronic communication services, social media platforms, and search engines provide an ideal environment both for the anonymous delivery of targeted threats, sexual harassment, and extortion, but also for the mass dissemination of intimidating, defamatory, degrading, deceptive, or discriminatory narratives. Individuals or groups systematically targeted by cyber surveillance and cyber harassment generally are left without any effective means of defense, escape, or self-protection, and at least in this respect often find themselves in a situation of powerlessness comparable to physical custody. Depending on the circumstances, the physical absence and anonymity of the perpetrator can even exacerbate the victim's emotions of helplessness, loss of control, and vulnerability, not unlike the stress-augmenting effect of blindfolding or hooding during physical torture. Likewise, the generalized shame inflicted by public exposure, defamation, and degradation can be just as traumatic as direct humiliation by perpetrators in a closed environment. Yeah, I mean, it's like when you got remote surveillance going on and remote torture going on, and they watch you, they surveil you using the bathroom, they surveil you when you have to change, so they surveil you when you do everything. You know, it's been so long for me that I don't even think about it anymore, but for people who are like just started getting remotely surveilled and hit with directed energy weapons, like especially women, it's like some women that I've talked to, they don't even take showers. Like they won't take showers. Like it's so horribly psychologically traumatizing. At the beginning it was pretty well. At the beginning I was like kind of, you know, hey, looky here, but then it got weird after a couple of years, and you know, it did really affect me psychologically. I would just use it against them, you know, try and use it against the surveillance team. Let them see a little bit too much. But I think for women that's hard to do, you know, to just make a big joke about it. Okay, so loss of control and vulnerability, not unlike the stress-augmenting effect of blindfolding or hooding during physical torture. Likewise, the generalized shame inflicted by public exposure, defamation, and degradation can be just as traumatic as direct humiliation by perpetrators in a closed environment. As various studies on cyberbullying have shown, already harassment in comparatively limited environments can expose targeted individuals to extremely elevated and prolonged levels of anxiety, stress, social isolation, and depression, and significantly increases the risk of suicide. Arguably, therefore, much more systematic government-sponsored threats, here's the important part, arguably, therefore, much more systematic government-sponsored threats and harassment delivered through cyber technologies not only entail a situation of effective powerlessness, but may well inflict levels of anxiety, stress, shame, and guilt amounting to severe mental suffering, as required for the finding of torture. See, guys, he's on to it here. He knows about it. He's winding up. Nils Melzer's winding up at the plate, right? He's doing a couple of practice. The pitcher's pitching it in, and he's doing a couple of bunts and hits, right? He's he's like putting it out there, but he's gathering more information, and then boom, he's going to be putting it out using our testimonies, using what he's testimonies from targeted individuals. So we're getting there. I mean, this is like the golden ticket. This is the golden ticket. The UN declares it. We put this. Take this document to anybody you need to talk to. But I think it'd be a better idea to wait till what he says in October. That's going to be solid. I mean, that's going to be solid. You put that in anybody's face, game over. Game over. They can't say anything. Like, this is a really good thing. I know everything's falling apart in the world. I know everything's dangerous, but I see a way that we can lessen our problems, that we can lessen this torture, that we can have a better chance, And this is what I see. This is the big one. This is the big game here, the big one, man. This is the big one. All right. More generally, in order to ensure the adequate implementation of the prohibition of torture and related legal obligations in present and future circumstances, its interpretation should evolve in line with new challenges and capabilities arising in relation to emerging technologies not only in cyberspace, but also in areas such as artificial intelligence, robotics, nano and neurotechnology, or pharmaceutical and biomedical sciences, including so-called human enhancement. I don't know if that's the end here. Conclusion and recommendations. Okay, there was something at the bottom of conclusions and recommendations. that I think I need to read here. Okay, here it is. Here's the last thing I'll read because we're at like 35 minutes. We're in a torturous environment because I want to read this. You guys can read the whole thing. I think this is something we should all add to our evidence, right? We should all add to the evidence that we have. But torturous environments, I think, is important because we are constantly in an electromagnetic box. I mean, we are in an electronic concentration camp. So our whole environment with the gang stalking, the isolation, you got V2K being shot at your head, electromagnetic fields, external directed energy. When you go somewhere, you're being like if you go and talk to your family, you're being tortured. Let me give you guys an example. My dad almost died, right? And he was in a nursing home getting rehabilitated, and I had to stay with him and help him to the bathroom and everything like that. And while I was doing that, I had V2K running on me, saying how awful I was. I think they were saying, like, you're a piece of S and stuff like that. And when I was bringing my dad to the bathroom, like, they'd say, don't drop him, stupid, don't drop him, stupid, while this high-pitched ringing is going on in my ears, right? The entire time I'm trying to help my dad, which, I think the aneurysm came from targeting. I think his brain had that reaction to it. And they were still doing the V2K and the high-pitched sound. I want to tell you guys this horrible thing that scarred me, and I'm trying to learn to, look at my scars and say God got me through that. There's this awesome Joel Osteen sermon where he's like, learn to not be sad about your scars. Learn to look at them as I wasn't destroyed through that. To look at it a certain way, but when my dad had his aneurysm, he could not talk, but he was like his eyes were open and he looked helpless. And I ran over to him and I was like holding him in my arms. My attackers were shooting me with microwaves in the groin while that was going on. So these things that are happening to targeted individuals are so beyond satanic, so beyond psychotic. They must be stopped. We must use everything that we have to stop this. So we can move on to the bigger fish, which is our society being completely destroyed and a new world order coming in. Something must be done about these technologies and the awareness, getting awareness out to the public, or we have no chance. And just saying something like that really isn't enough, guys, but pick your mission, get your mission and hone in on it. Things that you think will be successful, will help people, will spread your light. It's time. God's calling on us. God's calling on us to not only awaken, right? We need to help people awaken, but people who are already awake about this, we need to just to rise up. We need to rise up. We need to, that light inside of us, we need it to get real bright. We need it to get real bright and heal us, and we need to tap into miracles. God's calling on the good of this world to evolve because evil sure is evolving. It's spreading all over this world, I'll find the words to say what I wanted to say then later. Torturous environments. In practice, torture victims are almost always exposed to a combination of techniques and circumstances inflicting both mental and physical pain or suffering, the severity of which depends on factors such as duration, accumulation, and personal vulnerability. Victims tend to experience and respond to torture holistically and not as a series of isolated techniques and circumstances, each of which may or may not amount to torture. Accordingly, psychological torture may be committed in one single act or omission, or can result from a combination or accumulation of several factors which, taken individually and out of context, may seem harmless. The intentionality, purposefulness, and severity of the inflicted pain or suffering must always be assessed as a whole and in the light of circumstances prevailing in the given environment. I don't understand what any of that was. Okay. Challenges of new technologies. Challenges. You see what he's writing about, what he was writing about in March, and he's going to expand on these things. He's going to expand on these things using what targeted individuals are sending in, the information that people who understand. And I bet you, I don't know this, but I bet you Robert Duncan sent some stuff to the UN. You got Magnus Olson, you got Liliana, who has a lot of experience in this. So many targeted individuals that are so smart, and it's going to expand the conversation, expand the resolutions, expand the investigations. I know the UN in a bigger picture is doing a lot of bad things, but let me tell you, there are still good human beings on this earth, all up in some organizations actually searching out justice, not understanding the evil big picture that's coming down, actually believing some of the lies about the pandemic and everything like that, but still searching for justice and just doing it in the dark. Challenges of new technologies. In order to ensure the adequate implementation of the prohibition of torture and related international legal obligations in present and future circumstances, its interpretation should evolve in line with new challenges and capabilities arising in relation to emerging technologies, not only in cyberspace, but also in areas such as artificial intelligence, robotics, nano and neurotechnology, or pharmaceutical and biomedical sciences, including so-called human enhancement. I already read that, but I read it again. Alright guys, I'm going to put this in the description. I just wanted to show you guys what Nils Melzer had written the report on in March. And so coming up in October, he's going to take new information, right? He was already talking about this stuff. He's already talking about neurotechnology, artificial intelligence. So he's going to learn more about what's going on, And the thing is, this is the deal, guys. This is the deal. Once he gives that report at the UN, there ain't putting that back in the box. There ain't hiding that. The only thing that comes out of that is that we can, contact mainstream media and just say, look at what the UN said. I'm experiencing that. People all over the world are experiencing that. We can put it in doctors' faces, in psychiatrists' faces. There ain't putting that monkey back in the barrel, so to speak. Like, for real, I want to get excited about this. I know a lot of people, I know the world is, everything is really bad. I want to get excited about this. This is a miracle. This is a miracle in the dark, and we need this miracle, guys. A lot of us I'm suffering so much. I feel like sometimes the mind control is so bad that I will never be myself again. I find ways. God helps me to find ways to keep going and get my attackers off my brain and stuff like that. But it's really bad. And so I think a lot of targeted individuals, we really need to lean into this one. That's what I say. And I know we're going to have some disagreements. Some people are going to be like, blah, blah, that UN ain't going to do anything. But I see hope in this even now, without them even having done the report in October. I see things that ain't going back. The genie ain't going back in the bottle, and we need some victories. If we get some small victories, they can feed into larger victories. Alright guys, I love y'all. Just check this out. It's a long thing, but he states it clearly. And anything where he is talking about this, I'm going to try and get and put it out online so we can gather it up and then be ready for the report in October. Unless he gets assassinated, right? I mean, that's kind of a joke. I shouldn't have gone there. But he's going to stand up and speak about it, and it's going to be awesome. Really shouldn't have made that joke. That's a horrible... Sorry about that. So I don't want to end it on that. God bless you guys. We gotta see the good. There's a whole lot of bad in this world, a whole lot of real bad. But man, there's so many good people out there. There's so many good things. There's so many good people in certain organizations that they're blind. They're blind. They want to do good in the world, and they think that maybe going along with something that's false is good. We got to open people's eyes, and we got to be a light. We got to turn other people's lights on. You know, God calls us to do that. God's calling me to do that. If I can get out of the mind, because you know, my torture's really bad. So, but God's gonna find us a way. You know, God's gonna find us a way. We just do the best we can do till we go on home. I have a lot of hope in this guy. I feel it. Whew, I feel it like deep that it just doesn't even matter. Like, I'm not saying that the program's gonna stop. Like in October when he gives the report, I'm not saying like everything's just gonna stop then, but it sets dominoes in motion that cannot be stopped in a good way for our situation. It can't be undone. It's good that cannot be undone. That can only grow. That can only grow. Yeah, I see it. All right, guys. I love y'all, and I'll definitely see you on the next one. Love y'all a lot. I hope everybody's just hanging in there. Let's just do our best. Let's do our best, and let's head towards hopeful things. You know, there's still hope in this world. There's still good humans. Still good. You know, I love y'all. I'll see you on the next one.